Good morning. Welcome back to my resolute path. Now, today I am starting and ending with an apology, so please bear with me. First, I want to say I'm sorry for not being consistent with my posting. Honestly, I was disappointed by the level of support my previous videos received. It's done more than I expected, and I didn't know how to really process those feelings. I think it's a natural reaction when you put something personal out into the world and don't get the response you hope for. But to those who did support me, thank you. You really do mean the world to me. Your kindness and encouragement keep me going, even when the path feels difficult. I greatly appreciate getting your feedback. Really did help to motivate me and keep pushing myself and putting myself out there. And for that, I am truly grateful. Now, I've realized that sometimes we can be our own harshest critics. And it's important to remember that there are those who see our efforts even when we feel overlooked. Now, I also want to apologize if I've ever come across as any kind of holier than thou, or made it seem like I was looking down on anyone else's choices. That was never my intention. We do all come from different walks of life, and I understand that we all have different values and perspectives. My journey is mine alone, and it doesn't invalidate anyone else's. We're all walking our own path at our own pace. Now, just because something doesn't work for me doesn't mean it isn't the right choice for someone else. We each have our own truths, and I need to respect that. I also need to remind myself that growth is personal and isn't linear. It's about taking those small steps, day after day, even when it feels like nothing is changing. Remember, be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a harder battle. Now, that's a quote I try to remind myself of, especially when it's easy to compare and judge others. Now, when I first started this channel, I thought I needed to have all the answers. But I've learned that not knowing, not having everything figured out is okay. We're all on this journey, and it's not about perfection. It's about showing up, and being honest with others, and being honest with yourself. And this is me being vulnerable, sharing the parts of my journey that I used to be too afraid to show. The truth is, none of us have it all figured out. As much as we might try to convince ourselves that we do, we all have work in progress. Now, I'm going to be shifting the focus of this channel. Moving forward, instead of interviews, this is going to be more of a personal video diary that I'm sharing with the world. It is a space for me to reflect, to share what I'm learning along the way, and to be vulnerable in a way that I haven't allowed myself to be before. I'll still bring you scenic footage from my hikes and motorcycle rides when I can, but right now, as we are deep in winter, that content is limited. Now, life isn't always about the big moments, and I want to focus on sharing the quieter, more reflective moments that shape who I am. It's a shift from being a storyteller to being more of a witness to my own life. That is today why you are watching me stretch. This footage was filmed at 4 o'clock in the morning, bedhead, mismatched, weird, awkward gym clothes, the whole nine. Trying to be as real as possible. Now, I have realized that introspection is a huge part of who I am. And though I may think I'm self-aware, I also know that the best perspective often comes from the outside looking in. That's why I want to hear from you. Your thoughts, your feedback, your critiques. It all helps me grow. I'm here to learn, and I can't do that alone. I'm still figuring out how to communicate in a way that feels authentic and honest, so please share your thoughts in the comments. If you have any constructive feedback, tips, even if all you're wanting to do is troll me, go right ahead. It's all part of the process. Growth isn't just about agreeing with me. It's about challenging me to become better. That's how we learn, by being open to feedback, no matter how hard it may be to hear. Now, as I reflect on the path that's led me here, I realize the importance of embracing imperfection. We often hear that perfection is the enemy of progress. Now, I cannot agree more. I used to believe that I had to have everything figured out before I could share it with others, but now I understand that the process of figuring it out, the vulnerability, the rawness, that's what connects us all. When we share our real, unfiltered selves, that's when we make the most meaningful connections. Now, I'm sharing this not because I've arrived, but because I am still on the journey. The journey is the reward, as they say. Now, progress is often made in the midst of discomfort and uncertainty. I do have a quote here I want to share with you guys. This is actually from Robert Collier. It reads, "The success is the sum of small efforts, repeated day in and day out." Now, that's really been ringing true for me lately. With that said, let's dive into this episode. Now, before we get into it, a quick disclaimer. I have a very unique body. I am into my 40s for broken bones. I'm into my teens for surgeries. If you're considering starting any kind of fitness routine, please consult with a professional first. But I know that if I can make progress, you can too. It doesn't matter where you start, it just matters that you start. Don't let where you are today stop you from taking the first step toward where you want to be tomorrow. Now, I have been struggling a lot with just perfectionism overall. I originally tried to narrate this live while stretching, but honestly, it was a mess. I stammered, I lost my train of thought, my stretching really suffered because I wasn't breathing properly or really pushing into the stretch. So instead, I'm voicing over this footage and sharing my thoughts on fitness and the social aspects that come with it. It's funny how I always expect everything to be perfect right away, but that's just not how life works. Progress isn't linear, and sometimes you have to stumble before you can find your rhythm. There's value in the mistakes, in the failures. It's not about avoiding them. It's about learning how to get back up after each one. Perfectionism can be paralyzing, but imperfection is what allows us to move forward. I'll openly admit this is probably close to my 50th time recording this. I also want to mention that I don't condone filming in public gyms. I shot this again at 4 o'clock in the morning when the gym was nearly empty, and I kept to a corner all by myself to ensure I wasn't in anyone's way. If anyone had come into the frame, I would have stopped filming and respected the space of others. That is something that took me some time to learn, and it's a lesson that I don't take lightly. We're all in this together, and I want to make sure I'm doing my part to respect that. We are all just people trying to get better in our own way, and part of that is respecting the space we share with others. Now, one of the first things I focused on when I started working on myself was my physical health. 3 years ago, I weighed nearly 300 pounds. I could barely lift the bar. I'm not a fitness influencer. I'm not out here rocking a six-pack. I definitely don't look like any kind of bodybuilder. But I am strong enough to live a full and active life now, which is something I could not say back then. Starting with fitness was, in hindsight, just the simplest entry point. Mental health is complex, and figuring out where to even begin can feel overwhelming. But physical health, that was something I could take small, measurable steps towards, and that was a win that I could hold on to when everything else seemed too fast and too uncertain. Now, I started with a basic stretching routine, just like the one you're watching now. The progress was slow, but even small wins matter. Once I was comfortable with that, I added cardio, which was just simple walks around the block, or some little bit of time on a stationary bike. It wasn't much, but it was a start. I had to remind myself, you don't need to go fast. You just need to keep going. And honestly, that advice still helps me today. It's a reminder that progress doesn't have to be fast or dramatic. It just has to be steady. Small steps add up over time, and they're the foundation of any lasting change. Now, I will admit, weightlifting has actually become my favorite part of my workout routine. I believe stretching and cardio are actually more important for just general mobility, but there's just something about throwing weights around that I've come to love. It's a release, it's a challenge, and it's an affirmation all at once. It's about pushing my body, but also my mind. Every lift reminds me that I am capable of more than I sometimes give myself credit for. Now, I've been tracking my progress, and some of that I want to share with you guys. I've actually gotten up to 200 pounds on my bench press. I'm doing full sets of 40-pound preacher curls, and I've managed to get up to sets of 3 for body weight pull-ups. Now, those numbers aren't astronomical in any way, but they're huge for me, and they've been a huge confidence boost. Now, seeing tangible improvements is something I struggle with when it comes to mental health. So the progress isn't always visible when it comes to that mental health, and that makes it harder to measure. But in the gym, the numbers don't lie. I do know that I'm like crying myself to sleep less often, and I've got less thoughts of self-harm, and I'm less self-isolating than I was 6 months ago. But those changes aren't as visible as the weight I'm lifting. So seeing those milestones in the gym really helped me understand that growth happens even when it's hard to see. Now, there's also a great social aspect to fitness in the gym life. The gym has this impact in ways I didn't expect, physically, socially, and even in terms of conflict resolution. I've made connections in the gym. There are great people there that give me knuckles every morning. They check in on my progress, and they share theirs with me. Those connections, they remind me that growth isn't solitary. It happens in community. We rise by lifting each other. I believe that's true for both the body and the soul. There's strength in numbers, whether that's literal strength in the gym or emotional strength when we lean on each other. Now, I've also learned a lot about sharing space. At first, I thought all those posted rules were stupid. I didn't think that they should apply to me. Over time, I realized that they exist to set the stage for mutual respect. And I absolutely hate it when I walk up to a bench and there's still 300 pounds sitting on the bar and a big old sweat stain that someone didn't bother wiping up. So I make sure that I don't leave that kind of mess for the next person. And when someone does, I've learned how to ask them respectfully to clean up after themselves. Not every conversation goes smoothly, as you can imagine, but even those moments have taught me how to handle conflict better. I've learned that growth is also in the hard conversations. Just a few closing thoughts here. I do hope that listening to me talk while watching me stretch wasn't too boring. I also really hope I managed to talk long enough to cover my whole stretching routine. But at the start of this video, I did say I was going to end with an apology. So I want to acknowledge my own hypocrisy. I do think that in some degree, we all have hypocritical moments at times, and I've been struggling with that a lot lately. I don't like it when people try to impose their rules or lifestyle choices on me, and I never want to come across as doing that to others. So I need to check myself, and I need to make sure that I am not projecting my expectations onto you or others. I also want to apologize if I've ever seemed judgmental. The truth is, I am not a perfect person. I've just been trying to be better. Who am I to judge anyone else? We're all out here just doing the best we can. My final thoughts here. Self-improvement starts with acknowledging what needs work. And I've been doing my best to face that head on. The process isn't easy, but it's worth it. It's constantly reminding myself that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And even if that step is small, it still counts. Now, thank you all for being here and sticking it out to the end. Please like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you'll know when the next video drops. I love you all, and as always, keep it shiny.